This might really be the last time we see Blaber on Cloud9, and I'm really disappointed to even have to speculate about this. Honestly, I wouldn't have said anything if it was just a subreddit asking for Blabber gone, just because I think that Blabber should realistically retire on Cloud9. But then, someone sent me this.
The speculation from the highest, most credible source in the scene. This goes above Wooloo and above the other people. Okay. Quotation mark. I wouldn't be surprised if C9 actually went in a different direction with jungle. End quotation mark. And then
today, man.
The only safe people likely on the team are Thanatos, Jojo, and Berserker.
Now, I really hope it's just speculation or rumors, or I don't know who said what, but I also know that things don't work that fast. At least, hopefully, they don't make their decision literally like 10 minutes after the game ended. I don't know how fast that was after the game ended, but still, Blabber is the cornerstone that you've been building around, and it feels like you've given him less and less investment. You've given this roster less time than what a roster should have. A roster should have at least 2 splits, especially when you're bringing in a rookie. There's so many things. Blabber doesn't have nearly as many coaches. It just feels like this team wasn't given enough time to succeed. They played well for the majority of the split, and yes, they did collapse and crumble, but overreacting like this so quickly just seems. Now, I'm not a GM. I'm not definitely going to tell you this is what you should do with your roster or what you shouldn't. I'm not a Cloud9 subreddit lurker, right? But I just want to tell you a little bit about your boy Blabber. Blabber is a 7-time first team All-Pro. He is a 2-time third All-Team All-Pro. He was the rookie of the split when he came in the summer of 2018, and he won you guys 4 LCS titles, with one of them being the most dominant split C9 has ever had. This man is contesting to being the best North American jungler we have ever seen, and yet we're having a conversation of letting him go because he had a bad year. Even the entire year wasn't bad. He had a bad split in spring, sure, he admits that. Summer, I thought he played a lot better. Yes, this was really disappointing. Yes, this was a historic Cloud9 collapse. And sure, you can say him and Vulcan were on both collapses that happened in 2020 and 2024. And so, yeah, get rid of those two because they're the common denominator. But it's just a lot of the success that you got was from Blabber. I talked to Blabber and I asked him about the constant moving of pieces and how Cloud9 recently really hasn't been able to gel and have a roster for a long time to develop and become a long-term roster.
I think there's a lot of things that changes for a team that aren't just related to gameplay. You don't necessarily want to change your players all the time, but there's also the financial situation, right? There's also maybe the players aren't happy playing with each other. It's not that the org doesn't want to keep them all the time, but there's a lot of situations like that I feel that I've had over the last 4 years or 5 years that I've been on LCS now. But I think that you can build on a team, but there is a cap on how much you can improve because I think the best teams require the best individual players. You might not need the best individual players in every single role, but if you don't have some of the best players in your league or in the world, then it's going to be really hard to build as a team when you're just losing lane or they just are losing. Yeah.
I will say I'm not a Cloud9 fan. Sure, this is the only piece of Cloud9 merch I have, and because they gave it for free during last year's final. But I would love to see them keep this roster and add more of coaching staff. Blabber isn't an in-game leader. We've heard this time and time again, and I think you give him the resources in order to develop that shot calling in the mid to late game. Cloud9 had great early games. You just have to shore up some of their other issues, right? You could argue about their drafts, their meta pick, all that stuff. That stuff, you just get more of a coaching staff that have proven over time and not just some random coach. You need really good GMs to be able to pick out the good coaches. And if you just provide them with those resources, you can see them develop. If I can see APA go from last year, not even looking like he was LCS ready, to now being first team All-Pro, you're telling me Blabber can't learn new tricks? He can't learn to shot call mid to late game? We've seen other players like Peanut, who used to be all mechanics, all hands, no brains, and now he's just all brains. He's probably the smartest LCK jungler. He's probably the smartest jungler in the East, period. So no, I don't want Cloud9 to get rid of Blabber. I don't want this to just be an organization where every split we're making changes, or every other split we're making changes because we can't figure it out. And we're not giving them resources. We're not giving them the time that we're giving other people in the league. It's just, it makes no sense.
I don't know, in my opinion, they didn't have anyone to take responsibility and like tell them what they should be playing. Because to me, it seems like the players didn't know what they are good at, or the coaches didn't know what their players good at. Like in my opinion, this team had so much potential, they could easily win LCS, but they just never played towards their strengths, and they seem just lost.
I've been a Blabber fan ever since he joined Cloud9, and I will continue to be a Blabber fan wherever he goes. You know, I'm biased. He's from Maryland. I'm from Maryland. If he comes to Shopify, that would be amazing for me. But even then, I would still prefer him to stay on Cloud9, just because that is his home, that he has built that place. And I think that, yes, he's had very good rosters, and I know people will say, pair him up with Aniski so that he doesn't have to use his brains and he can just use his hands. I would implore Cloud9 to really take their time with their decisions, and implore the Cloud9 fans as well. You guys were all cheering for Blabber when he won that 2020 split. You guys were so hyped on Blabber. And yeah, he had his Blabber Crabber moments in MSI 2021, but you guys were standing behind this man. And now that, I don't even think he did that bad, but it's just like, who do we blame? And you have to find a scapegoat. And you know who you scapegoated last split? You scapegoated Fudge, but you also scapegoated Mithy. And it wasn't just you guys. He went up there and said, that is my fault. I'm sorry, it was my mistake. Where is C9 right now? Who's standing up and taking responsibility? I don't see anybody, right? I don't see a Mithy going up, taking the flame and the heat. You didn't realize that was something that was important. And now you're shooting at everybody. I see people saying, get rid of everybody. I see people saying, just keep Berserker. And then it doesn't get rid of everyone else. Like, at the end of the day, this was a collapse by the entire team. And then no one's taking responsibility. You know, Reaper isn't there taking responsibility and saying, hey guys, sorry, it's my bad. It's the same players that you guys were championing that you are trying to get rid of now. And so what I say to C9 fans, especially the vocal ones on the subreddit asking for change, is that instead of asking for changing players, ask for the players to change how they play. Because it's not like Blabber can't be the best jungler. He was first team All-Pro. I mean, what am I even talking about? Sure, you can disagree whether he was clearly top 3. Is your only answer to import Tarzan and get someone even like so much better than Blabber? Who else are you going to get? I don't have faith that you're going to actually keep a jungler and develop him. Right? You guys are making roster splits every single split in the past, like, what, 4 or 5 splits now? Just like how Cloud9 doubled down and said, hey, we're really good at the early game. It's just not enough to get us these wins. We're going to get even better at the early games so we can get these wins. Right? And it showed in the regular season. And you could disagree that maybe they should have also shored up their mid to late game and been a little bit more creative with their mid to late game. And they just didn't have time to do that. That stuff is like hard. They weren't given an entire year. They were given just a split. I want you to double down on this roster and say, hey, we're going to keep this roster and we're going to double down. We're going to bring more of a coaching staff, more support. We're going to pay for your boot camp to Korea. We're going to get you a positional coach to help you with the certain things that maybe you've been struggling on. And we're going to run it again. And we're going to really improve on the things that cause us to collapse. That's just, as a fan of sport, as a fan of the League of Legends sport, I would love to see this roster again. Because if you remember, the beginning of 2024, before we played a single game of League of Legends, everyone had Cloud9 winning, and everyone thought this super team was going to be the super team that was going to succeed. Because FlyQuest last year didn't work, and the year before Team Liquid didn't work, and now Cloud9 didn't work. And who knows? Maybe you just need to give them a little bit more time and resources without making all these changes left and right.
Yeah, thanks guys for coming today. And I'm sorry we weren't able to win and make MSI, but we'll win next split.